This is the KTC G27P6, and KTC is one of my favorite monitor brands to check out products from because they make the monitors for a lot of the big name players in the space like NEC, Samsung, or even ViewSonic. But because you're getting it from KTC directly, it actually comes in at a much more affordable price point. And KTC sponsored this video for me to show you just how amazing this G27P6 actually is. And this G27P6 is a special one because while I have checked out an OLED panel from KTC in the past, that one was huge. It was a 42-inch 4K monitor, which honestly doesn't fit on everybody's desk. But what we have here with the G27P6 is something that is a little bit more desk friendly because it comes in at 27 inches, but also has ridiculous specs, such as the fact that it has a resolution of 2560 by 1440 and comes in at 240 hertz. It actually has the exact same panel as this LG monitor and this Asus monitor, but it actually comes with this gorgeous back situation right here, which is its own custom thermal heatsink, making sure that the OLED monitor actually stays really cool. But with that 1440p OLED situation, you're also getting 240 hertz, as well as 0.03 millisecond gray to gray response time, as well as 1.5 million to 1 contrast ratio, and a really gorgeous bezel-less design. And then you also have a stand that allows you to swivel, tilt, and even rotate. And then it's got extra features like being TUV eye care certified, some built-in speakers, a USB Type-C 65 watt port so that if you want to hook this up with a laptop, it can actually charge a USB-C laptop as well. And it's also got a USB upstream which you can connect to your keyboard and mouse, or you can use it for KVM support, allowing you to have multiple devices connected to this monitor and easily switch your peripherals between them. And then in addition to having this heatsink on the back, it also has intelligent voltage optimization for better heat management. And then just taking a look at what KTC provides, obviously getting this monitor set up right out of the box took me no time at all. We have our power cable connected to the power brick, which has a top output of 168 watts. It includes a Type-C cable for you to actually be able to use that 65 watt charger. Looks like we also have some extensions for a VESA mounting solution, a 1.5 meter HDMI cable, a 1.5 meter DisplayPort cable, and then a little cable cover that will slip onto the back to cover up anything that you need to connect to this monitor. And that, again, is one of the things I really love about KTC monitors. It has an LG OLED panel in it, but because of its affordability, you're getting a lot of tech at a lower price point, making it so that you're just going to be able to game on it. Which, let's go check out this 240 hertz LG OLED panel. So we've got the KTC G27P6 set up over here on a system that's capable of actually driving this. So this is my APNX C1 ChromaFlare case that's got a 14900K and an RTX 4090 in here, and that should be able to drive the panel of the 1440p 240 hertz and do it in a way that I can actually enjoy it. But first, I want to peel off this reflective surface. One of the things that KTC wants people to notice is the fact that this thing is actually incredibly matte. It's got an anti-glare low reflection on the surface of this, which has a reflectance of 2%. And you see that it has a very sleek, borderless design, making it so that the monitor is what you see. You're not staring at huge, ugly bezels anywhere. They are incredibly thin. But also from the get-go, I can tell just how rich and vibrant this screen looks. It's got 100% of the sRGB color space. It has a delta E of less than 2 with KTC including the report in the box with the monitor, and it's got 2 different HDR modes which allow you to get up to 1000 nits in cinema mode. Let's go ahead and turn HDR on, and that looks incredible. One of the things that what's happening right now is that we're only running in 60 hertz, but we're gonna bump that up to 240. That looks really good. My mouse cursor is looking real smooth. But also, thankfully, KTC includes a nice little joystick on the back for you to adjust everything with the monitor. So you take a look at the brightness, the contrast, the black equalizer, the aspect ratio, the sharpness, as well as the color temperature and changing things like gamma, hue, saturation, blue light filter, the color range, the color gamut, as well as turning on things like adaptive sync, which we're definitely going to want to use. You can also have a timer, a crosshair, an FPS counter, the 2 different HDR modes of standard and cinema. You can make sure low input lag is turned on, as well as adjust the RGB light that's on the back of the monitor. You have access to changing the inputs of HDMI, DisplayPort, Type-C, as well as adjusting the KVM switch. switch, and you have some advanced settings such as the OLED pixel refresher, the OLED expert to make sure that screen burn-in is less of a concern with a monitor like this, as well as turning on a screensaver or USB sleep power, and then options for display stream compression and DDC or CI. But before we jump into a game, taking a look at something like the Blurbusters UFO test, what we can see is that there is minimal ghosting whatsoever. There's very little motion blur, thanks to all of the features that come with this G27P6. Taking a look at it, this looks crisp and clear. One of the games that I've been waiting to play is Alan Wake 2, and because this is more of a dark horror game, one of the things that I've been waiting for is having this monitor set up here at my system. Because of how dark and moody some of the lighting can be, I wanted to make sure that I was getting it with the best contrast ratio possible, especially on OLED. So it turns out the beginning of Alan Wake 2 has something that we actually cannot show on the screen, but what I can see is that the contrast of everything that's going on in these dark scenes, especially with this OLED, on a typical LED monitor, I would not be able to make out the individual leaves that are over here on these plants. But because of the fact that each pixel is self-illuminated, I can actually make out all of that because we don't have backlight bleed covering up some of the issues here. Now, just to get up close and personal with the camera right now, looking at one of the darkest parts of the scene where it is just shrubbery at nighttime on a typical LED monitor, you would not be able to see this. But if I crank up the camera ISO, you can see that it is all there. The backlight bleed is not overwhelming the actual details of the video game. On a typical monitor, you would not be able to see this as clearly, as distinctly, looking at things like the rocks behind the actual bushes. But because of the use of the OLED screen, as well as with more games taking advantage of ray tracing, creating more realistic lighting scenarios, having an OLED monitor, especially one like the G27P6 from KTC, is definitely going to be the way to get the best gaming experience over the next few years. And playing a fast-paced game like Marvel's Spider-Man and making use of that 240Hz refresh rate, as well as the HDR settings, so that way we can see the brilliant detail of the highlights in the sun, but then all of the buildings in shadow looking incredible, and just smoothly swinging around New York City, actually getting to feel the speed of everything that's moving on, thanks to the high refresh rate, the minimal ghosting, and just the vibrancy of the contrast and the colors. This is an incredible experience on this monitor. And then playing something that is as equally dark as Alan Wake, but actually has a lot more vibrancy thanks to the neon lights. Cyberpunk actually really shines on a monitor like this because of the HDR brightness that you're getting, the OLED contrast, making sure that the dark shadowy parts are really well contrasted against things like the vibrancy of these tree leaves that are falling down, or any of the other neon lighting that's going on in the game. And especially with games like this, taking more advantage of ray tracing and real light reconstruction, making sure that the shadows are ray traced. Playing this on anything besides an OLED monitor would be undercutting just how much value is being added by these new lighting schemes, since the OLED monitor actually allows you to see the difference between just what is the bright parts and the shadow parts. The G27P6 really hammers home the beauty of this game. And if you want to check out the KTC G27P6, you can click our link in the video description and get one for yourself. Big thanks to KTC for sponsoring this video and letting me get to take a look at one of the hottest monitors on the market right now.